everyone, it's Skylar.
And it's Tyler.
And we're here for episode 3 of Bird Talk.
Yeah, so in this episode, we have one guest, our CEO, Anika Garza. We're just going to ask her questions. So how's it going, Anika?
It's going great, Tyler. How's it going for you?
It's going good, I'd say.
That's good. Thanks for having me today.
Thanks for joining us. So you are the CEO, which means you're the chief of the team as a whole, but more specifically the chief of the main person in charge of the IR side. And you also have your own specific subgroup. So what is your subgroup? What's it called and what does it do?
Yeah, so my subgroup is called the executive subgroup, or we could also just be called like the special program subgroup. And basically what we do is we run all of the chairman's efforts in combination with everyone else on the team. And we also are involved in doing special programs like the STEAM workshop that we have on our team and GEMS and other things. And because of COVID, we've actually had to make efforts to transfer those things to more virtual settings where we could spread them to people while they're still at home. So that's just some of the things that we've done this year on our subgroup.
Most of the chiefs on the team have 2 or more directors. How many do you have? One? You have one director, technically, right?
Yeah, correct.
And that's for your special program subgroup?
Yeah, so the one director that I have is Alyssa, and she's for the special program subgroup, which runs all of that STEAM workshop, first outreach, all of that stuff that I was mentioning earlier. And then I also have another sort of director. She's not really a director, but she works under me and she works pretty much for the whole team. But that's the team secretary, Sabrina, and she runs like all of the scheduling. She makes sure that everything's updated and everybody has, things working and has communication between the team.
Okay, so what made you actually decide to go for CEO?
Oh yeah, so I actually, hilariously enough, was on the programming subgroup my freshman year. So my goal was to actually be the director of programming in my junior year and possibly CTO in my senior year. So that was the goal. But then when I got into my sophomore year, I transferred to the, I think it was a finance subgroup, and I became director of accounting in my sophomore year, which was kind of a big change from programming. And so after that, I started working on a lot of outreach stuff and a lot of finance. And I worked really closely with the CEO that year, Julie, and she kind of motivated me to get more involved in robotics and kind of put my ideas out there and eventually try to interview and get CEO. So I did just that.
Okay, so just more on outreach and stuff. How is outreach just being handled in general this year?
Yeah. So like I was saying earlier, most of our outreach was in person. So for the STEAM workshop, we had to transfer a lot of what we wanted to do to more COVID friendly versions of it. The STEAM workshop was run over the course of about 3 days or 3 hours back in 2019 and 2018, 2020, earlier in 2020 when we were running it in person, and we would have kids come from schools, big groups of kids, anywhere from 20 to 50 kids. And we would have them build towers and play one of our coding games, which was like a big giant version that incorporated coding principles in it. And we would do that for our STEAM workshop. But unfortunately, because we can't meet in person with all of those kids anymore, we decided to take 2 aspects from the workshop and turn them into virtual and more easily spread versions of the workshop. So the first one is the virtual STEAM workshop coding game, where the programming team is currently working on developing a full game that children from elementary schools can log on to and play against their friends and compete by coding their robot to collect points across the map. And then they will win, and then they can keep playing as long as they want at home in the safety of their rooms. And so that's being worked on right now, and it's pretty much almost done. I know that I've talked with the programmers and they're just going through server and debugging issues right now. So that's great to see. And then the second aspect of the workshop that we decided to take online, or I guess on a more scalable and sustainable version, was the STEAM Workshop's children's book part. So the children's book was made back in about, I think it was 2013, as a project by the alumni of the team to inspire kids to get more involved in STEM. And it was about these birds that built a rocket ship and got to see an astronaut at the ISS. So what the team decided to do, or I guess what my subgroup decided to do, was change that book into, or translate the book into more languages so that it was more accessible to people all across the globe. So yeah, that's pretty much what we've been doing this year, and that's how we've been handling things during COVID. It's been tough, but it's definitely been a rewarding experience to see all the translations come in and see the game starting to work.
How many translations have you guys made so far?
So it's changing like every day, but so far I think we have 10 translations total, and that includes, I think, Japanese, Korean, Filipino, Punjabi, Spanish, Lao, Hmong, and I think we're working on other versions too, like Telugu, Hindi, and then more. Yeah. So that's just a sneak preview of what we have so far.
So, somewhat recently at kickoff, like you were announced as a chairman's presenter. So, just how does that basically work for a lot of
What's
people?
it like?
Yeah.
What's it like? Yeah. So, pretty much, what going into the CEO position, they put on the job description that one of the jobs of the CEO would be to be the key spokesperson for the team, and so that entailed also becoming a chairman's presenter just by default. So I was kind of pushed into the position. I mean, I knew what I was getting into going into it, but it kind of just came with the job. So that's been going pretty well. We meet like twice a week for 2 hours each day for like ever since build season started, and we've been working on our script and working on getting our presentation down. And honestly, it's really hard because, or I guess it's not really hard. Honestly, the script is not that bad to come up with. And I've been having a lot of fun, writing it and getting the reviews from everybody else so that we could start fixing it. The hard part is the other two girls, Daphne and Haley, and then the mentor, Mr. Peterson, like to talk a lot, like a lot. And like, I like talking too, but they're little chatterboxes, man. Like, I'm just sitting there like trying to do work and stuff, and sometimes I'll like turn my volume down because they're just talking so much, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like please, can we finish the script for once? I'm trying to do my work here that we actually got into the meeting to do, and I feel like the 2 hours is just like, oh yeah, the 2 hours is like, let's do 5 minutes of the script, and then like the next like 2 hours will be talking about whatever is going on in our lives.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but it's gotta be nice to be able to talk, to talk to people right now, because it's kind of hard to do that.
Oh, yeah, it's super nice. It's really nice to be able to talk to them. And I'm not saying that I hate the conversation. I'm just saying I'm working on a tight schedule right now, and I just would prefer if we could get more work done within the work period that we designated for ourselves, especially since, and like, no shade to Haley and Daphne, they're very hard workers, but like, I'm looking at the script right now, and like, I think I've pretty much written a good like 2/3, 3/4 of it. They're doing editing and stuff, which is great. Love that. But like, who's talking more if one of us has majority of the script done and the rest of us are making comments on the side like, wow, really great work, or hey, we should play Jeopardy after this. Like, yeah. So I mean, it's great. I love it, but also maybe we should stop procrastinating too much on that.
You mentioned having a really tight schedule. You've always been really busy. Like, I honestly don't know how you do it every year, but
yeah, like even
like,
after this, you have a meeting.
yeah.
Yeah.
How for someone with such a crazy schedule already, why did you decide to do robotics? Put something else on top of everything else?
Oh yeah. So like, I don't know if you've noticed, but I'm kind of insane. And so my freshman year, I thought it was a great idea to like join as many academic teams as I could. And so what I did was I signed up for robotics, history day, debate, academic decathlon, science fair. I think those were the 5 teams I was on my freshman year. And so I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to be like so cool and be a part of all of these teams, and it's just going to be a blast, and I'm totally not going to be burnt out or overworked at all. And so, fun story, I dropped a lot of those.
No
But robotics,
surprise.
wow, thanks, Tyler. But one of the two of the ones that I didn't drop were academic decathlon and of course this. History day went for a little bit, but robotics really stuck with me. I think mostly because of it's just like such a homey like family environment in robotics, and I really like the people in robotics versus like other academic teams is like you do the work and you barely see the people. You see them at meetings and you guys ask each other like, how's your project going? And then you leave. Like that's it. But with
Robotics is
robotics,
a family.
right. With robotics, it's so much more team-based. And I love one of the things that I really learned to love about robotics and that I'm actually taking with me into like when I go and major in business. And that's the reason that I want to major in business and be a leader is I just love having that synergy with people and being able to kind of, bring out their strengths and guide them so that we can make something like incredible. So someone's really good at graphic design. I want them on my team so that we can start working on like, a video game or whatever, or someone who's really good at writing, someone who's really good at finance. I just love taking those people's strong suits and then playing them out so that they can make the team look great and that they can make themselves look great. I just love seeing people shine. It's really a rewarding experience. And I think that's why I decided to stay on robotics.
Yeah, that's a really good way to look about it. Like also being put in this leadership position, it allows you to assign things to people and like they do good in this certain spot.
It also helps you keep a very positive look on everything because I know since I was a leader with you last year, I know that it can get really crazy, but you have a really good outlook on it, so it makes it a lot easier and a lot more enjoyable.
It does get crazy, but I think the fact that we're all in it together just makes you feel a little less insane about it, It's like everyone else is also struggling through this with me, so I might as well be a little bit less stressed about it.
Yeah, we're all in this together.
We all go down, we all go down together.
We're going down together.
Yeah.
And we're going down with the ship.
Okay, so earlier you mentioned how like our STEAM workshops, and I know last year you were the main person in charge of planning those and everything. So last year you actually got to go to a host STEAM workshop over in Laos with our last year's CEO, Elijah. So do you want to talk a bit about that, like that experience?
Yeah, sure. Oh my gosh, don't even ask me about Laos. I could go on for hours. But Laos was definitely a life-changing experience. It was incredible going over there, and I'm so lucky to have had that experience, especially considering like I didn't get some of the big experiences in robotics, like going to Worlds and stuff. So, having Laos kind of keeps me grounded. But it was wild, like going on the flights and going through all of the traveling and planning and getting to see all the kids and stuff. It was crazy. And so like I'll just give you the basic rundown. What happened was we took a bunch of connecting flights to get to Laos, and once we got there we stayed in the capital city Vientiane for 2 days, and we did some shopping around there, and we also got to meet our what we call the Lao country director, whose name was Tongsi, and I love him. He's amazing. He learned English on his own to talk to traveling people, and he also speaks Hmong and Lao, so he's like super incredible. And then we also met this other guy, Ong Pao, who also taught himself English, and now he's a professor for English at a university, so he's also pretty amazing. But we got to meet them, and we got to shop around with them, and they were super excited to see us and practice their English on us. And then after that, we took a flight to the province of Xianquang, where we went to the village of Ban Pawai to meet all the children for the workshop. And they were oh my gosh, like they were amazing and adorable and super smart and stuff. And I'm like so happy to have met them because they literally made my experience like 10 times better. But we pretty much gave them the materials, and I ran like the tower building when we were there. So we handed them the materials and they started looking at them all confused and stuff. And we had to I had to have a translator explain it to them, like what we were going to do. And then once they got the hang of it, like they started going off. They started building their towers to the ceiling and stuff and stepping on their tables to try and get them super tall. And yeah, they were they were super smart about it. And I loved like going around, and they didn't even notice that I was there sometimes, and they'd get scared when they did because like they'd be so into building their towers. So that was super fun. And then we also had Elijah do the coding game with the kiddos, and in between like when I was not doing the tower building stuff, I would go and take photos for him, and they would like They were super cute. Elijah had a translator there, and he'd like tell her like, oh, you can move forward, and she'd pick up a card and he'd say like, oh, you got 3 points, and she'd like be all happy and like laughing and having fun. It was just so great. And I love too that the parents, when they went to go grab their kids, like brothers and sisters there, they started peeking through the windows because they were so interested in what was going on. And another part that wasn't really talked about the workshop too was Elijah's dad actually worked at Lowe's. So he got to bring little birdhouse building kits to the workshop. And one of the things that the kids got to do was they got little mini hammers and everything, and they got to construct their own little wooden birdhouses. And they had a blast with that. I loved it. Was like super loud because you could hear the hammers clanking in the other room, but like they were just laughing so much, and it was so great. That's just the best thing I've ever experienced in my life, and I was so glad to have gone there.
Yeah,
Sorry.
sounds like a very rewarding experience.
Long story,
Man,
but
yeah, that's awesome.
It's a good story though.
Yeah. Stories are made to be told. So
Speaking of stories, what's your favorite like story / like memory that you've had from like just the team as a whole, or like like maybe a specific competition or something?
Ooh, my favorite memory. Oh my god.
I know it's hard to pick
There's
one.
so many, and you know,
To
I'm gonna be
choose from.
honest, and there's some that I don't know if I can say.
What about one of your favorites or like your funniest ones, the one that always comes to mind whenever you think about the team?
For appropriate audiences, of course.
For appropriate audiences, yeah, that's right. Oh my gosh, I think we were having a movie ice cream night or something, and this was really, really like random, but I remember me and the programming director at the time, John, because I was still in programming, started messing around with he started programming a toy car, like just out of one of the teacher's supplies in the room. And like we just played with that car for like the rest of the night and didn't watch the movie. And you know, in hindsight, I probably should have stayed behind and watched the movie, but the toy car was a lot more interesting. Yeah, freshman year was pretty crazy, but it was fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really
Freshman year
sucks
was
that
wild.
like a lot of freshmen, including
Ooh.
me, don't get their freshman year on the team.
Yeah. But I do another memory I had wasn't during freshman year, but it's like very short memory was one of the members, Ramesses, coming up with what he called breakfast rotations.
Oh, I remember this.
He was in charge of doing all of the scouting rotations for our team, so he was like, you know, it would be really funny if I like forced these people to come to breakfast at a specific time. And so he thought it was a good idea to send out a spreadsheet where you had your name on a certain time for breakfast, and people actually followed it, and it was really funny.
Ramesses made so many spreadsheets.
I remember I saw that, and I messaged Mr. Neighbors, and I told him I'm not doing this, and he's like, "All right, sounds good."
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, we called him General Mills.
Yeah, Mr. General Mills.
So then I guess that's probably, we're getting pretty far in. So I guess I'll ask one more question. So Anika, this is a question. It's not a new question. It's one that the team throws around a lot every year. But what is your favorite bird?
Ooh,
There is a correct answer and there is a wrong answer. And before you answer that, just for everybody listening, we have our mascots are 3 birds, Coney, Rollo, and Blocky. Blocky's red. Blocky is blue and he's a square. He's a block. Coney is our red one and it's a cone. And then Rollo is our white one and it's the sphere, and Rollo is the best. Now, Anika, what is the best? What is your favorite bird?
Like, I don't even know how to respond now. I feel like you're gonna like find my address and then like start harassing me once I say my answer. But actually, my favorite and the best bird is Blocky.
I'm gonna have to agree with you on that one.
And that's because, okay, well, there's a little bit of history behind this. So one, my freshman year, we did this thing called FLL in 10 days, and you were divided into teams called Coney, Rollo, and Blocky. And the first team I was ever on was Blocky, and no one did work in that team at all except me and another girl. And that's why that's my favorite bird, because I carried that entire team. Well, not to toot my own horn, but I pretty much carried that FLL team. And then also...
Yeah, wow, way to be humble.
Very nice.
Don't talk to me like that, Tyler. You're in my subgroup. Come on, have some respect for your CEO. But anyway.
Everyone's in your subgroup, Anika. You're the CEO.
But also, along with Blocky, Blocko, the like
Blocko.
meme version of Blocky. So Blocko became like a huge thing my junior year. When
Hey,
we
it's
took,
different. It's different.
yeah, when we
Blocky is a
took
cube.
oh my
Blocko is a rectangular prism
oh my gosh. But
with
anyway,
arms
so
and legs, of course.
yeah. And so that's a really good memory of taking that robot Blocko to Madtown and seeing the poorly drawn team shirts that they had. I remember specifically going out and buying them white t-shirts so that they could get Sharpie and draw Blocko on them. Like I remember that. And like Michael was like, "Okay guys, these shirts are only for the drive team because so many people wanted to buy them."
So
And like
many people. It was
The
crazy.
robot won because it was just carried.
yeah, because it was carried by everyone. Yeah. mhm.
It got picked
Yep.
for an alliance, the
Yeah.
top seeded alliance.
And then for those of you who are listening that don't know what Blanco is, it's like Blocky, and then we just distorted him so that he's this
You
big,
just stretch Blocky.
And
stretch
then
Blocky.
beefy arms and legs.
Yeah, exactly. And that was what was on the team shirts. And also, something really funny was the first team shirt that they drew, on the back they wrote sponsors, but Michael spelled sponsors wrong and put SPONSERS. And then I told him, Michael, it's sponsors, not sponsors. And then he was like, oh. And so he connects the lines of the E so that it looks like an O. And he's like, look, it's like sponsors, but with a theta now.
Oh my
And
goodness.
I was like, all right. And so if you look at the original team shirts, all of them have sponsors with a theta for the second O. And oh
Wow.
gosh.
That's amazing.
So anyway, that's why Blocky is my favorite bird. He has a history.
The
See,
Buchanan
I
big
just-
brains.
I just really like, I'm gonna be honest, I just really like circles. That's why I like Rollo.
I'm not surprised, Skylar.
Yep, they're my favorite shape, but no, all the birds are good. It's just Rollo is the best. But okay, also I'm literally knew you were gonna say Blocky because like it's weird and it's not completely accurate. There's no scientific evidence or anything behind this, but almost every IR person I talk to, like generally the average answer is Blocky. But then when I talk to ST people, the average answer, well now it's Blocky because of Blocko, but it used to be Coney.
Yeah.
Which, and nobody, and that's
Mhm.
one of the other reasons I've always liked Rollo, because like nobody ever, very rarely do you
Okay.
hear Rollo.
You're
Yeah,
standing out from the crowd,
You know what was
Skylar.
so funny was like back when my first year on the team, no one liked Blocky. So that's why I like Blocky, because I was like, oh, no one appreciates this little square bird, so I'm just gonna say I do. And then he became a meme, and now everyone likes Blocky. All right, you know, just
You were
like
there from the start.
everyone jumped on the
Number
bandwagon.
one fan from the
I
beginning.
was the first fan. I'm number one fan.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Anika, for coming and answering some questions.
Yeah, no
It has
problem.
been a blast.
Oh,
Yeah.
for sure. Thanks for having me, you guys.
Oh, one last question for you before we start to finish up. What is your, because like last week we interviewed like some of the ST leaders and figure out where ST is right now. What is IR doing like this week and like right now, like as a whole, not just your subgroup? What are the big things happening?
So right now, finance is working on the business plan. Media is working on little Valentine's Day buttons for our Valentine's Day grams, and also the chairman's video. Even though the video isn't required, it'll be part of our presentation. And then my subgroup, as far as like outreach and special programs, are currently working on the translations, like I mentioned earlier, and then also the chairman's essay and chairman's presentation.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, so now this isn't something that we've done for the past podcast, but we're going to start doing. It's our sponsor shout out. So every week we're going to give a shout out to one of our sponsors. And this week we are giving a shout out to Harris Manufacturing. And they are our longest sponsor, if not, well, they are one of our longest sponsors, if not our longest sponsor. Over the years, they've created a lot of our parts. They used to manufacture most of our parts, but not as much recently. Now they mainly manufacture material / like sheet metal for us. And yeah, so thank you to Harris Manufacturing for supporting us for as long as you guys have.
Now we're just moving on to our Nest News section. section where so here's just some things that have come up. There is a booster meeting on February 18th from 6:30 to 7:30.
And for those of you who don't know, the boosters are our bird brain boosters. Those are our parents who help us and the team.
Yeah, if you are, on the team and if you or your parents want to get involved, then join the boosters channel on Slack. And if you need more info on that, you can contact at team1671.com.
And in other news, one of our members, Daphne, she bought a bunch of bird brain masks a few months ago, and they've got like our logo on them. If you would like any of them, she is still selling them. They're $5 each, and if you want one, just contact Daphne on Slack for more information on how to get one. And yeah,
that's all we have for you today. So that's Skylar and Tyler signing off.
signing off.